Hi folks, this is Roger from Offgrid Van Life, and I have a really nice project for today, which is to take this chap and replace the fridge which is in my camper there. That's where the absorption fridge goes. In about 2007 we drove through Romania, and prior to that our absorption fridge used to freeze milk and all sorts of things. It was incredibly efficient. But after that trip, the fridge didn't work so well. We had the cooling unit replaced, but it was never the same. So milk goes sour and stuff like that. So not that happy with it. So I'm going to take you through this fridge and the existing one and just explain what it is we're going to do. So this is the Webasto Elegance something or other 115, so it's 115 litres. It is compressor based, as you can see. There is the dinky little compressor, and it's meant to be like the bee's knees of efficiency. There's the cooling fan that runs apparently very silently. I went for the one that is dual, so you got 220 with a European plug. Why they supply a European plug to the UK, I don't know. 12 volt input, nice thick cables, so I'll be making sure I supply enough current. If we come around to the front, it's got a so you can change it around. It's got a sort of a central handle there. I might change the door around to suit what was already there. A nice little that's magnetized, so it stays up. So that's where you keep your nice steaks and chicken and what have you. Nice shelving arrangement, nice veg tray at the bottom. You can put some pretty big bottles in there, I think. So all in all, I'm quite excited about that. I'm about to put it on charge just to see how well it works before I actually go to the trouble of putting it in. Now, let me take you through what I am pulling out. So this is what is coming out. It is an Electrolux RM4401 absorption three-way, so it runs off gas 12 and 230, and it's currently cold because it's running on both shore power or electric hookup as well as gas, but it's not that cold. It's just okay. It's really old, so we're going to take this out. If we come back to looking at all the pipes and things, here are two gas pipes, one for the fridge, one for the cooker, the stove, and so we'll be taking the fridge line out and reusing it for an external barbecue point. So that all needs to come out. If we look at the bottom, here's the bottom part of the fridge, so not that exciting. That all just simply comes out. Right, and when we are finished with it, we will have a super duper 12 volt compressor fridge that will run very efficiently off our Life PO4 batteries. So stay tuned. I'm about to take the gas lines off the stove and the fridge. We'll be putting the stove back on, obviously, because we still use it, but the fridge we will completely detach to use this line for an external barbecue point. So 14mm and a 17. We've disconnected the gas, so now the stove or the cooker comes out. I'm probably going to replace these with newer stainless steel, slightly bigger screws. This is the old style, which they make it really easy because it just screws out, rather than the modern things that are actually glued in place. Just that these screws are absolutely tiny and have stripped out the wood. stove unit out. Here is my audience as I work, just keeping an eye on me. Always a good thing to unplug the stuff that'll kill you. There we are. A few things that need to come off. Let's start with the fridge door. Right, now let's disconnect some electrics. Right, we got the 220 volt out, and it's not live, but I'm going to tie it up, because the last thing we want to do is to stick the shore power back in without thinking and have a little bit of fun and games. I'm going to reuse this for the 220 source on the fridge, which I'll connect up later on. I'm not sure how often we'll use it on 220, but we'll use it quite a lot in gas. Don't need to tie up the ground really, but may as well do all three. Keep them nice and safe and sound. Right, we can connect the electric hookup if we want. The last is to disconnect the line that is fed from the D+, well, fed when D+ comes on, should I say. It's not actually fed, it's fed obviously through a relay of sorts. Everything loose except for the fridge itself. So to get the fridge out, there are 4 screws. Let's see, take these covers off. Just going to see if the fridge moves now. What can I hold on to? Whole thing is moved out. I'll swing the camera over a bit more. Let's see if I can actually get the whole fridge out onto the floor. That is it. So let's see what's inside these fridge. You see, nice brand spanking new, clean, a very nice freezer unit, nice magnets that hold it up so you can get to your stuff. A nice little hen wanting to see inside. Come on, move it there. This is a rescue hen, by the way. She's growing her feathers back. She used to be in a battery. So see how tame they are. Surprising, you'd think they'd hate humans. Anyway, look how tatty this whole thing is, and it's just simply not working. It's simply not cooling properly, because it got shaken so badly on a very, very bad road in Romania in 2007, long time ago. Anyway, identical size, as you can see, pretty much. This is slightly low, just a few millimeters lower, but we'll come around to the back and have a look at something I want to show you. So here are the 2 backs of the fridges, and you can see if you look at this one here, you can see although it actually protrudes out a little bit more, there are lots of cavities. There's gaps up here and gaps around down there. This one here they're exactly the same width, 525 millimeters. It fits exactly snug in the space that it should, but you can see here there are little things in the side where you can have cables in the cavity. Here this comes right to the very end, right on the very edge. There's some cables that are going to have to be moved here, but there's something I want to show you. So the gas comes onto here. So the top is for the stove and the bottom is for the fridge. The bottom we're going to remove to use for an external barbecue point. The top we need to keep So I'm going to show you something about the stove now, something I'm going to need to modify. So if I bring this back here, this stove sits something like this over here. It sits literally, actually about, it sits about there, and that is fine because this pipe here can go down into like this cavity here. If I try and put this where it's going to go here, roughly here, you can see the pipe hits on there. So this pipe is going to be in the way. So we are going to need to modify this. There were two choices. We could either replace this with a induction plate, but a single plate would be okay. We'd really need two, and that starts becoming very heavy in terms of we have to change the inverter, we have to change lots of things. So we've decided to keep this. We're going to need to cut this pipe here, because this is 8 millimeters, this is also 8 millimeters. You put this cut this here and put in a straight coupler, and put in a copper pipe that runs along here and then drops down to where it should be. Completely new fittings over here, and hopefully that'll all fit in. It's very tight, but I think it's worth it. This fridge is going to be great when it goes in. It is so efficient, it gets so cold, and it doesn't matter what angle the van is, it's compressor based, it'll just carry on working. These things they love a level vehicle. If you have some place where you're not level, they just don't work properly. Well, let's get on with it then. So I need to cut this pipe here. It's not enough, I don't want to bend it, and there's not enough room to get in anything else here, so let's see if a Dremel will cut through it. If you can pull this way, you can pull the plug out right outside.
And then these ones are sort of pull outside as well. These are lift it.
There we are. It's stuck.
So snug.
I still need to put this handle on, but I just wanted to push it in and check it out.
Yeah.
Removing this in preparation for changing the piping for the stove, the cooktop. These pipes are really hard. The original ones that came with the vehicle. I'm just doing it bit by bit. Finally, that's off. So we've prepared everything to bring the fridge back in. Just placed, we did try the fridge, pushed it in a bit to make sure it would fit. Just have the wires hanging out for now. We'll tighten them. We're going to run them down this hole here, straight around through the bottom here, and to the battery. So while we were about it, we attached this handle here that we made up. Just use a hole saw to cut two bits of these things. This is some old doweling that came from my late father-in-law in Zimbabwe. Had a woodwork factory, so it's sort of got sentimental value, but this handle makes it really easy to get in and out of this narrow door. We've tidied these up a little bit, fastened them down so they won't be in the way, re-terminated these because they were old and brittle and not making good contact. Probably run one or two more wires so we can add a switch at the front to lift the step up, change the planks at the bottom, and we are just about ready to push the fridge in.
And now we're into the wiring. So this is always a bit fiddly when you're installing these fuse blocks, measuring the wires, terminating them with lugs. We quite like those insulated lugs that use heat shrink, because then you can obviously heat the heat shrink up, but it keeps everything together nicely. We really like those. We have those linked in our electrical toolkit guide on our website. If you're interested in looking at that, you can find the link in our bio for that. But yeah, these are always just a bit of a tricky and fiddly part of putting these sort of systems and additions or enhancements into these old motorhomes, just because you're up and down the steps and into these lockers and stuff. It's always a bit fiddly, but got it wired in and put some trunking in to keep the cables out of the way and protected, because sometimes we put stuff in here and use the storage in these lockers. This motorhome is quite nice because it has that bottom part which is insulated, so it has that false floor. We've even taken it to Austria on a skiing trip where it got down to like minus 18 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty good from that point of view. I think we used 10 gauge wire for this install for this fridge, so plenty adequate to carry the load that it needs, and obviously is fused correctly to avoid any fires or anything like that. Then got on to bending the copper pipe for extending the gas line for the cooktop or the stove. So working with copper is pretty straightforward, just measuring it out, bending it correctly. Having a good pipe bender is a good investment as well, so that you don't have a kinked corner, and which obviously will affect the flow of the gas. And then just put it on with these compression couplings. Pretty straightforward. Got that in and installed, and it's looking pretty good. Pretty happy with it.
Busy rerouting the gas line for the stove. Just about done. Just need to tighten it up here and then run the all important test. That's on. I'm going to go and open up the valve inside and then just check for leaks on this. Valve is open. Let's use this.
So, goldfish originated in China, I believe, somewhere.
No leaks, that's what I want to see. No leaks at all. I'm going to fix this up here so it doesn't vibrate and move when the vehicle is
yes, I
maybe travelling. Otherwise, this is just about done. Final step is to stop this thing from moving and vibrating too much. Firstly, I don't want the noise while I'm driving, and secondly, I don't want it to kind of shake loose. That is perfect. Perfect. So we have completed the installation of this fridge. This is a compressor, Webasto compressor, 115 litre fridge. So if I try and open it, it's working perfectly. As you can see, everything's on. It's running off the battery at the moment. Totally frozen, which is what we want, and it's nice and cool. This is going to stop things going off, so I'm well pleased with that. It's fitted in very snugly, very snugly. We had to reroute some gas lines here, but that's nicely secured, so they're not going to rattle while we travel, so that'll be good. And finally, we decided we'd run it straight off the battery, not use the wiring at the old fridge because it wasn't good enough. So we come off our battery works here, we come to a fuse distribution point here for the positive. For the negative, we come to a common bar over here, and we have taken this to a shunt. So this is a smart shunt with an external display that's measuring exactly what goes to the fridge, only the fridge, so we can count. So here it is so far. It's been going for nearly 20 hours, and it has drawn 17.7 amp hours, which is pretty good, 235 watt hours. So that's pretty much what we were expecting. and well pleased with that. So in the next 4 hours it'll probably come to about 270-ish, 20 or so amp hours. So that's less than 10% of the battery's capacity over a 24-hour period. Can't complain about that for the efficiency of this fridge. It's been a very hot night, so hopefully in future it'll be more efficient, even though we'll be opening and closing it. So excuse the mess, need to tidy up, put tools away, but at this stage I'm well pleased with the results.